Do you want to get some free media coverage for your business really quickly? Sit back and enjoy this little slideshow that explains the kind of media you can go to get some quick wins and how to approach them. How to get media coverage quickly. Firstly, I guess you'd be wondering what media you should go to. But even if you don't have much time, you can still target media outlets that will publish or air a story quickly. These media include TV, radio, bloggers, daily newspapers, and online media and websites. What sort of story should you pitch? Well, if you have a product, you want to get samples to the media outlets so that the producer or presenter or journalist can see and feel it and perhaps use it on air. For a product as well, perhaps you could suggest a segment idea to the producer, a fashion parade featuring toddlers, or a segment on parenting products, or whatever you think is relevant to your particular product or service. Remember that if you want to be interviewed, or you have a spokesperson, whether it's you or someone else, then you will need to suggest what you could be interviewed about. The journalist or the producer is going to be looking for suggestions for questions that they can ask you on air. You might like to read our ebook, How to Do Killer Media Interviews, which is in the shop, which was written by a journalist who has interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, and she's got 10 really, really good tips for making sure your message is on target. For interviews, you will also need to produce a bio or your background story. They call it a bio for biography, or your background story, but they'll need that as well. Again, it's just to prompt them to know some of your background so they can ask you some questions. TV. Try to think of a visual way to present your product or service. How might it look on a segment on morning TV? You've probably all seen those segments, so you've just got to think, how would they maybe use your product or service in a segment like that? Call the producer first and be ready to pitch your story, but check first that it's a good time to call them. So if they're on air or they're really busy, they're not going to be very receptive to your pitch, but you do want to call via telephone as opposed to email first, because they want to hear what you've got to say. Make sure you have any samples, or if you need models for a fashion parade or whatever, organised if the producer asks, because that might be one of the things. They might think it's a great story, but trying to get background information, images, models, whatever, might be quite hard for them. So tell them that you've got that covered. If the producer is interested in learning more, then send them your media release, your images, research, whatever else it is that you've got to back up your story. Also, if you want to be interviewed, be prepared to travel to their studio. Most of the morning shows are filmed in Sydney, except those on Channel 10 that are shot in Melbourne. So be prepared to maybe have to jump on a plane to get on the show. Radio. Call producers when their show is not on air. A phone call is always best, but make sure that you're not calling them if they're an afternoon show or a lunchtime show at the time that they're on air. They won't be very impressed that you don't realise that, and also they won't be able to talk. Know the types of topics that they like to talk about on the show that you're targeting, and offer yourself or your spokesperson to do an interview. Be prepared to be interviewed within the next 1 to 5 days, but radio does tend to be pretty quick. I have even been known to pitch something at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and got a phone call at 5 o'clock the next morning because someone had dropped out of their breakfast show and they wanted us on straight away. So do be prepared. There can be quite a quick turnaround. Offer them a few suggestions of questions that they might like to ask you. Make sure that you've prepared your key messages, as in what you want to get across in the interview, in advance so that you know what you want to say. Some interviews can be what they call pre-records, where they're not live on air, so they might record you this afternoon but actually put it on air later in the week. Others will be live, where there'll be a presenter who will be talking to you and interacting with you live on air. And after the interview, always ask the producer for an MP3 that you could then maybe use on your site or in social media. Bloggers. As we all know now, bloggers are the new media. So they definitely need to be on your list, and they can be pretty good for turning things around quickly. Always approach bloggers via email. There are very, very few that even have phone numbers on their website or the details for phone numbers, but it's always worth approaching them via email first. Make sure you're approaching a blogger who is relevant to your target market, somebody who's writing to the same sort of audience that you want to get to. Mummy bloggers, or what they call mummy bloggers, are great for parenting products and services. But be aware, some may ask for a payment to review or endorse a product. Sometimes, look, it can be anything from $70 or $50 through to $500. So it just really needs to depend on your budget and what you really want. So just be aware that you may have to offer a small upfront fee. Some of them will also do it for product, so they'll be quite happy if you offer them a product that they can have to review or to give away to their readers, and then a product that they have to just sort of touch and feel before the show or before they write about it. Some as well will be happy to receive content if it contains advice or ideas. So if you've got some tips for their readers or something, that will go down pretty well. Always ask for them to provide a link in the article to your website, because that ultimately is what you want. And make sure that you target the bloggers that have a big audience. There's no point going to someone who's only got a couple of hundred or less followers. You really want someone that's maybe got 1,000 or more. And that will get you the maximum impact. Daily newspapers. First thing about newspapers is pitch via email, either directly to the journalist or via the Chief of Staff. I mean, you can call if you want to, but pitching by email is very normal for them. The other thing that you can do is go to the online editor as well as the print editor. So often on newspapers such as the Herald Sun or the Daily Telegraph or the Courier Mail, there will be an online editor as well as the print editor. If you aren't sure, just ring reception and ask them who's in charge of the online content. Target weekend newspapers for lifestyle coverage. They always are looking for stuff to put in for the weekend supplements and the weekend newspapers. You could also try setting up a photo opportunity, which means that you basically have all the ingredients there for them to send a photographer down to take a shot. So before you do that, if you want mums or kids in the shot, make sure that you've checked that you will be able to get some mums or kids there for the time that you're suggesting to the newspaper, and let the paper know that they can take the shot, or that you could take it yourself and you could, or one that you've already got, and you could send them something. Sometimes they'll go for that, sometimes they prefer to do it themselves. Try the weekend's kids pages, as in, the little pages that are normally a pull-out that have cartoons or puzzles for children. And you can offer prizes for competitions if you haven't got straight editorials. So bear that in mind, particularly if you have a toy or a product that babies or kids would like to use, that you can use those kids pages as a way to sort of promote it. And another little hint that I've heard from a journalist that might be worth a try is to offer the story on a Friday afternoon, because what will happen is it'll go in a pile for the people who are there on the weekend staff, and often that will get you a story in either the Sunday or the Monday's issue. Basically, from what I've been told, they're looking for a quick and easy way to get coverage into the paper on Mondays. So if you've given them an image and a nice little story, they may well run it. Other online media. Many media outlets will automatically post a story from their paper or from the TV show onto their website as well. But there are places that you can go to just get articles published. Look for websites that have content or articles for your target market. For instance, if you're trying to get to parents, you could try sites such as KidSpot, Essential Baby, Belly Belly, or raisingchildren.net.au, as they'll publish it quickly and they are looking for content. It just needs to be relevant to their readers. You can also try the online versions of traditional magazines. For instance, Practical Parenting and Mother and Baby both have their own websites, and the content may well differ from what's in the magazine. And again, they often have an online editor that you can approach who'd be happy to hear from you if you've got something that would be good for their website. And of course, if they like it, they can get it up that day or the next day for you. Email your release to as many website editors as you can, because you're just sending it out there and you want to get as much coverage as possible as quickly as possible. Normally with a website, rather than offering an interview, have some copy ready for them to upload. So it might be an article, it might be tips, it might be whatever. You might like to do a pretend interview where you've asked yourself questions and then you answer them and you can provide that to them. But really they're looking for something they can upload pretty quickly. And always try to include a low resolution image, because bearing in mind it's online, so they don't need high res, but they would like to normally have a picture that can go with it. It just saves them having to go and hunt down some stock photography. Do you want to know some more? We hope this has given you an idea of what you could do to get some publicity fast. But of course you can still target long lead media such as monthly magazines. It's just that the coverage might happen a little bit later, and if it's monthly magazines, it might be months later. For more information about how to do it, you can go to our website, but you can also get some help on the phone from me. I can talk to you about what your angles are, and we have lots and lots of ebooks and other interesting bits and pieces in our shop at Handle Your Own PR, and we also sell media contact lists for you to get to those media as quickly as possible. If you think that you're going to need to do interviews, we highly recommend that you read our ebook, How to Do Killer Media Interviews. It's really, really useful. It's got some fantastic tips, and it's really encouraging, I think, if you've got a message that you want to get out there, to help you make sure that your message gets across to everyone. And last but not least, good luck with your campaign, and do let us know how you go. Now that you've seen this, if you'd like to learn more about how to run your own PR campaign, go to our website at www.handleyourownpr.com.au. We have lots of information that explains the process for how to do it, and we also have lots of tools so that you can get started straight away.